Future Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be building our Civilization. We're going to be going out and exploring new territories and terrains, and we're going to be procreating, and we're going to be gathering goods, and we're going to be building different things like buildings and statues and you name it. We're going to do farms and settlements, and you got it. Going up different progress tracks. Today we're taking a look at Civolution. This is a heavy civilization game from Stefan Feld, one of the most popular game designers in the world. So let me show you how it's played at a very high level, and then I'll see what I think. There's many things you're doing in Civolution, but one of the things you're doing is building these research cards of achievements and buildings and inventions and insights and mutation. They're going to give you all sorts of benefits, immediate, sometimes ongoing benefits, and sometimes points for the end game. Now there is a randomized map that you're exploring throughout the game and placing your tribes members out and gathering goods and transporting goods to your own board. The game is 4 eras long. Each era, randomly at the beginning of the game, you're going to have different goals, and they're going to be worth more earlier in the game. At the end of the one, however many different territories you have people on, it's going to be 5 points for each one. Or moving up the different culture track, or the prosperity track, or having a different amount of people out on there. So this is going to change every game and give you different focuses for the 4 main eras or rounds of the game. But at the end of the game, you're going to be getting points for how high you are on each of these tracks, like technology and prestige. Some of them are actually going to be 2 points per how high you are on that track. That's also randomized at the beginning of the game. So you're moving up tracks for end game scoring. You're also going to be getting points depending on, and some of these are going to be more or less than others, like 2 points for these ones for features your tribe has, or how much prosperity you have, how many people you have out there, things like that. Each player is a huge player board. This is about half of it towards the end of a game, and you're also going to be building those projects, those research cards that I showed you earlier, into different stages of your game. These are going to be getting you points, 2, 3, or 4 points, depending on how high you build them, and you build them from bottom up, and you're building them with the same type of things in each column. But there's also some wild income chips that you can use to build higher. These are also going to be giving you income at the end of each era, and you can be able to trigger these throughout the game as well. You're going to be trying to get different goals, like having 2 people in the swamp, or even just spending a resource like brimstone. As you finish these, you're also going to be able to upgrade different actions on your board. And these goals are being stacked as well, and the higher you get the stages, the more points they are, but you need to actually unlock the higher stages to get you even more points, different things to focus on. Now on your turn, the main thing you're doing is taking any 2 dice and using them to do different actions. Like this one needs a 3 dice and a 5 dice, a 3 and a 6, a 4 and a 6, a 1 and a 3, a 2 and a 3. So if I wanted to do this planning where I actually complete one of the goals I just showed you, I would use a 4, I would use a 3, I would then now remove these from my board, and I've done that. But what if I didn't have a 4 or 3? You can use ideas. These help you change a die up or down 1 and 6 in one wrap. Or you can use focus, which is if I don't have a die, I can actually use this as any die I want for one-time use. Over the course of the game, you're going to be able to upgrade things, so maybe moving this from a level 1 to a level 2, which is more powerful, or moving it from a level 2 to a level 3, which is even more powerful. And a lot of these actions give you different things like this or this. So there's many different choices you can have. There are a ton of them here. Sometimes you're spending dice just to get certain aspects of your tribe, like stamina or intelligence or things like that, and those are going to be needed to build some of these research projects. For example, I have 1 vision. This one, if I was building this in stage 1, I need to have 2 visions. I could build it in stage 2 or stage 3. If I move up to stage 3, I have to additionally have another one. And they give you ongoing benefits, like this is a new action I can take, but it's also moving you up different things as well. You're going to be tracking resources on your board and the different aspects here. You're going to be building things like settlements that are going to get you prosperity, which are some of the goals in the game. You're going to be holding money and keeping food. You're going to be building possibly farms, which will help you feed your people that you got to do. Sometimes you'll be building boats, which allows you to get resources in a more wild manner. Sometimes out on the map, you're going to be producing, like producing oil, for example, which you'll actually put out on the map. And later on, you'll have to take an action to actually gather that and take it from here and put it on your board. Sometimes you're going to be migrating. Sometimes you're going to be procreating and making more. And boats allow you to bring things back that's wild. So I have something in here, I can bring back anything that it's adjacent to and say that's what it is. So it gives you a little bit more things there. You do need to have people on the boat in order to gather things onto it as well, though. Some of these are face down, all of them at the beginning of the game. You're going to be exploring these. That's an action where you're flipping these over. This is Mushroom Valley, where you get 1 food if you hunt near there. Some goals will have you going after that as well. Sometimes you'll have caves, which will make different places adjacent to other places. Some things will hurt you at the end of the round, like this you'll have -1 food if you have a person that is surrounding that. Each round is also an event where, hey, all civilizations with the most dice gets to move up a track, and all the ones that have the most pink dice move up the track. Sometimes you're going to be moving up the weather or down the weather, and that's going to allow you to do something different, but if it gets too hot or too cold, it has some negative ramifications. You're keeping an eye on that too. And sometimes you're going hunting in the different regions, and some regions are better than others. You're going to be rolling dice to get those, and you know which regions are possibly going to get you more food. Food's important because if you don't have enough to feed your people, they will be laid down. And if they're already laying down, they'll die and come off the board. So you need to feed your people. You'll also be getting points for every person that is still strong and standing at the end of a round as well. So you're trying to keep your people alive. Other than selecting these actions that I showed, at some point you're going to want to reset, and that's essentially going to allow you to re-roll the dice you've already used. This actually can become a food or an idea, and you continue to go that way after a certain amount of resets. It'll be the end of the era, and you'll go through a bunch of upkeep where you do some scoring and things like that, but you're going to play 4 eras of this game. Now, at certain times, you're going to have a fate die that you're going to be able to roll. You can move down this track, and what happens is it's easier to roll these. You'll get some extra bonus actions with some actions. And like here, you got to roll 1 all the way up to 1 to 6. So the further you move down this track, the easier it is to get those bonus actions. Also, it also shows you how many more points you get when you build statues, which is another strategy in the game. Now, in a very high-level nutshell, that's how you play over 4 eras, scoring at the end of each round, scoring the ending scoring, and doing lots of scoring during as well. Whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. My sweet spot tends to be games that are, an hour-ish that has a lot of depth, or even some that play in, around that feels like you played like a bigger game. It's things that are easier to set up. They don't take as much time, but you still feel like you played a very deep, rich experience. Those are my sweet spots, but I don't mind heavy games. When they come through, when they really sing, they really sing. For example, last year, Nucleum came out. Pretty heavy game. I think it's like a 4.2 weight on Board Game Geek. Loved it. Like the longer a game is, and the longer the setup is, and the harder the teach is, the more it has to stand out for me to have it have it really stand out for me. It's got to stand out even more than normal because of that. Those are my biases coming into this very heavy game. What do I like about this one? Castles of Burgundy style action placement. I loved Castles of Burgundy. I still do to this day. This is like Castles of Burgundy on steroids because you're not just placing 1 die to do an action, you're putting 2 in the combination of those 2 to do an action. And so it upped that, if you will, because there's many more actions that you could do this, and I like that. Feels very sandboxy. You're going to be doing all sorts of different things. You're going to completely ignore certain things some games and lean heavy into some things other games it'll be the opposite. You'll do other things. There's plenty to explore here, and it feels like a sandbox game. The game has lots of randomized and end game scoring and starting cards. Each game is going to feel different. Your strategies are going to change based upon those setups as to what's going to score in ages 1, 2, 3, and 4, eras 1, 2, 3, 4. I like that. It has that sort of Castles of Burgundy feel where like the earlier rounds, those things score more. I like that as well. It worked well in Burgundy. It works well here as well. But you're going to have a ton of replayability in this game because there is just so much randomization. And even your starting hand, your starting cards and your starting things, your cards and the scoring has got to sort of focus you at the beginning. But every game is going to feel different in this. I like that you're researching either points or abilities. Like some of those cards are giving you ongoing abilities. Some of them are going to give you long game points. And building up the different stages at the different. It's harder to build up, but you have to build. You got to build up if you want to get more of those points. I like that each of those stages. Again, you have to build them the same color in the same spot, so that gives you some abstract strategies to how you're going to build those and things like that. I like that you're discovering the landscape and deducing materials. And so, yeah, you know what? One of the 3 forest things are out, right? Well, where are the other 2? Well, I'm going to go here and produce and hope that that's the one. It isn't. Now I know where the other one is, right? And I like that you're sort of deducing where those materials are. I like that you're trying to build high on those stages because that's going to give you more and more points, possibly even unlocking the higher stages for more points, the 7 and 10 points, the highest 2 stages. But you're also trying to fill them in left to right too, because you're going to be getting rewards like new income chips and things like that. The income chips are cool because they're wild, so you can kind of put them anywhere. It helps you build things up faster. I like that aspect of it. You have those attribute chips, those yellow ones, another things to think about. You have all those different pieces of, your stamina and your vision and all these different things that are going to allow you to, you're going to need some of these to build some of those research cards, but you're also be able to take like mutation actions to move those things around. There's really a lot going on here. I think those that like heavier games and they like Stefan Feld games, I think they're going to like this if you like Civilization games. There's really a lot going on, a lot of different strategies that you go through. And I do like that again, every game is going to feel very different. Do you want to plan to get more dice? Do you want to do better on the press your luck with the fate dice? Do you want to build more statues? It's like there's so many different ways to go in this game. I think players that like high replayability game and Civilization games are going to like this one. What are some of the negatives in this game? The initial setup time is huge. You've got all these little stickers. Some of the terrains you got to stick down. The player boards, each of those player boards need to have 7 or 8 stickers on them. It's the kind that you peel, you stick on, and you got to peel the other thing off. Setting up all 4 player boards, you're in for it. It's going to take a while to set all those up. How do other games get away with double-sided boards without needing to do this? I'm sure it probably maybe saved them money for the cost of the game, but it does stink. The initial setup is a pain in the butt. The game is a table hog. It's huge. If you're playing with 4 players, you're going to need a big table for this. And for those players that are sitting in the different ways, it's going to be really hard for them to read things. And there's lots of things you need to read in this game. Lots of cards, lots of this, lots of that. It's a huge table hog, and even if it's going to be hard for some players to play the game. Which gets me to the next point is I think the game is best with 2 players. There's not a huge amount of interaction in this game. Sure, you can go in and bump somebody. You don't do it that often because it makes you lay your person down. Sure, maybe you're taking a goal before someone else or an income chip, some very minor interactions, some indirect interactions. There's not a lot of it's a very solo head down style game. These types of games typically are best with 2 players, and this definitely is because when you add more people, all it's really doing is adding time. And it is, you play a two-player game, you're in it for 2 hours for sure. It's about 30 minutes per player. Sorry, an hour, close to an hour per player, I'd say by the time you're done. So you're going to be in it for a good 4 hours probably with 4 players, because again, some of these actions, there's a lot of AP that can happen, and I think this game's best with 2 players because of that. I don't feel like you're losing anything, but you're gaining a lot of time back. You've got 24 different action possibilities per turn, at least. Maybe I miscounted. So there is a huge learning curve of icons in this game. Each player comes with a little book. The play rate is great. It does help, but there's a lot of things you can do. So there is a lot of analysis paralysis. If you play with people a lot of that, it's going to be an issue for them probably, especially for your first few plays. Feeding your people, I guess it comes with the territory as a Civilization game. It's a mechanism I don't love. It's not too punishing in this game though, because if you don't feed your people, you lay them down. If you don't feed them again later, they get removed. Sometimes you want lots of people because they do give you points if you're standing them up, and some goals are going for that, but it's not the end of the world, but it is always on your mind. It is a thing you're always working towards to try to keep. I don't love the mechanism. It's still here. Do we still need games with feeding your people? I guess in a Civilization game you kind of do. I would have liked to see that abstracted out a little bit. I'm kind of tired of that mechanism. The dice, you have a plan. This is one of those games where you have to lean into 1 or 2 main strategies. Those are the ones that are going to score the most. If you can lean into one of the ones that's like in the second round, that gets you 4 points per, and you can max that thing out, it's going to be great. You're going to be leaning into that heavily. But the dice do restrict which actions you could do. Granted, you have those the markers that you can use, the ideas that you can use to manipulate the dice. I like that a lot. That really helps. I like the planning ones that you can just make anything. That's great. That does help mitigate the dice roll. However, you still may find yourself like there's 2 or 3 things I want to do. I can't do any of them right now. You will be restricted from some of your dice actions. You're going to need to rest when you have, and get some dice back, and hopefully you roll the right things. But sometimes you got a plan, and you're not always going to be able to do it, even though there is dice mitigation, and that might turn people off to this. Another thing is this is one of those games that, again, you need. If you like the games where you're going to come up with a strategy at the beginning, and you're going to lean into those heavily and stick with that the entire game as your main thing, you're going to like this game. If you're one that likes to come up with a strategy and then always be pivoting to different things and be able to reap really good rewards by pivoting and doing things fast, probably not your best bet. Now you are going to have to pivot again because the dice sort of constrain you a bit. So you will be pivoting, but it's not going to be the big payoff because it's not going to go towards the thing that you're really going towards to get you the big payoff points for the points. So overall, I think it's a game that you like heavier games, you like Civilization games. There's a lot here. I think a lot of people are going to like this game. For me, again, the bigger, the longer, the heavier it is, the more setup time it is, the more it has to stand out for me to be like, yeah, it's getting a saxophone serenade, it's staying in my library. This one didn't quite do that for me. I enjoyed it, it's fine, but the setup time, the play length, the difficult to teach, the reward on the back end for me wasn't quite as much as that is for me. So this is one I can recommend to people that like heavier games, but it wasn't my cup of tea. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships with board games, by helping you on the next one you love. Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and their 4.5 Kickstarter introduced the new Galactic Mycroft and Watson Game Toppers with interchangeable rail inlays, as well as new game mats, miniature gaming terrain packs, leg kit options, dining covers, accessories, and amazing package deals. The campaign recently ended, but it's not too late to pledge late at GameToppersLLC.com.